Hi, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, guys. Today you are watching Black Tea News, and interesting stories are going on today. So I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw a story that someone shared, and I'm like, this can't be true. And they're like, the attorney general drunken at a game need a wheelchair to get out. I'm like, that sounds crazy. As a matter of fact, I thought it sounded so out of pocket. I'm like, this sounds a little conspiratorial. So, but then I scrolled down further on my news feed, and lo and behold, it was a thing. Oh my gosh. And so then I went to the page, or Dana Nessel's page, the Attorney General of Michigan, and she had some she apologized and told her account of the story, but the account was very strange to me, and it doesn't make sense, and people think there's more to the story. Maybe there is, because the story doesn't sound, I mean, I don't drink, so I would never be in that position, so I don't know what that would be like, but to me it seemed pretty odd. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it at least a little bit. I want to touch a little bit on the Kyle Rittenhouse case. He testified yesterday, and man, people had some egregious sort of reactions to it. As far as when he burst out in emotion, and I played that for you guys yesterday, but there was a lot of bad takes, but one, people were pretty mad at LeBron James's take too. So I do have his tweet and some pictures that people were tweeting at him in response. So we're going to be talking about that. And I also want to talk about James O'Keefe. This story is a little late, but I was listening to Tim Pool's show maybe like 2 days ago, and they mentioned no, maybe it was probably yesterday. And they mentioned James O'Keefe, how the FBI went after him. I had kind of heard some stuff about that, and I saw a TikTok about Ashley Biden's diary, and which I didn't know was a story and was a thing until the FBI raided James O'Keefe's place and confiscated his things. So we are now at the point where our federal law enforcement would raid people's places because of diaries, and which I don't know if that means that the diary is real or not. And I had heard a rumor about what was in it when I was scrolling through TikTok, but but the rumor was so egregious, I'm like, well, that can't be true. And then I heard about the FBI raiding to retrieve the diary that they say was stolen. James O'Keefe claimed that it wasn't stolen. So now people are like, the diary is real, and I don't know if it's real. I don't know if what people are spreading around is real, but I tell you, if it is real, this is a really messed up family. If this is indeed real. So we're going to jump into all that, but I want to thank you guys for watching today. Make sure that you guys are going to blacktnews.com, checking out the different content that I have on the website. Make sure that you guys are looking at the different merchandise that I have. Like, I got the cool goat hoodie. I got the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden shirt. I got, pro-Trump stuff. I got I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. I got the My Money, My Business shirt, which Facebook would not let me run an ad on it. My sister tried to run an ad on this, and then the response was, this could change people's minds about things. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the goal that I have going on there. That's sort of my whole reasoning behind what I'm doing. So that's what I do. and they didn't appreciate it, I guess. But if you're involved in the abortion discussion, which I am a lot, um, you can pick up this shirt there. Also got the pumpkin spice season stuff. So make sure that you're going to the website and checking out the different merchandise and find something that you guys will like. So, and also if you like Black Tea News, make sure that you guys are also, uh sharing that you're liking. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. All my handles are at Black Tea News. The only one that is different is at True Black Tea, and that one is on my Twitter page, and that is also my backup TikTok account as well. So I don't really have a very funny. I guess the Dana Nessel story is kind of funny enough, but a funny thing. But I think I want to jump really quickly to this LeBron tweet. But I don't know. Let's switch things up because I think before I get well, no, let's start with it. I think I'd rather end with a laughter than angry. So a lot of people were commenting about Kyle Rittenhouse's case. He stunned everyone, stunned the world, decided to testify the other day. And so people were saying all kinds of crazy things in reaction to his testimony because he did get emotional and busted out. And well, I guess I will play that reaction. You guys can judge.
And did you get back? Were you able to go in a northerly direction?
I wasn't.
Describe what happens.
Once I take that step back, I look over my shoulder and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side. And I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski. And there were three people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what I... That's what I run.
We're going to just take time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any kind of trap.
So that was when Kyle broke down on the stand, reliving that moment with everybody chasing him. And I've seen people say like you can't do all this stuff and then you just cry about it. You'll see people who have been through situations where they have like in war, which it is thank all of our veterans, but when they're reliving things or telling stories about what they've done. There's a preacher who came to our church not too long ago, and he was telling stories that he was in situations where he was justified and saved the lives of people but still carrying things. And I'm not trying to say that Kyle, I definitely am not saying that Kyle was heroic. I don't think he should have been out there in what he was doing, but do you not think someone will be affected by doing that? By living through that? Even the reporter from the Daily Caller was reliving through these events, and they're like, "Well, do you think your memory is better today than it was back then?" And or because they were trying to get him to recall things, and he said, "I will never forget what happened to me." No, he didn't start sobbing and stuff on the stand, but he you I don't know, you could see something like that and not remember it forever. And you have to remember all this stuff happened so fast. And they were trying to kill this kid. They were yelling out that they're trying to kill this kid and a bunch of other stuff. So, um, my opinion about that performance, um, I have had very rare bursts of emotion where you would blubber like that. And honest to God, I don't know why you would fake that. And I don't know why he'd get up on the stand with everything really to lose, because they had a solid slam dunk case anyway. Other than maybe he just wanted to tell his side of things, and other things came out, and he did a decent job. Maybe they felt that the jury needed to see him as a human being, but there was no guarantee that he'd be able to pull off something that elaborate if they planned a fake cry. And again, that looked pretty real to me. I don't know why you fake cry like that. Not that, I don't know why you would, especially knowing people's reaction to that. That was not like a sympathetic sort of emotional pat me on the back sort of cry. That was this person is exploding with emotion, and kind of like a awkward, I don't know what to do right now. The judge is like, oh, well, we're gonna go to break right now. We're gonna break right now. Um, so I've seen all sorts of memes with the left, mocking, and that's another thing. If it was really a performance for maybe the jury to see him as an emotional person, if there's people on that jury that's just into the ideology, I don't think something like that is going to move them. I think there'll be like the same, you know, I'm trying to think of a word that I could call these people. These same, I'll just call them jerks that from the other side, who are just so stuck in their bias, who see that kid and they don't like him. So they're going to just translate that into faking, and they're going to keep their biases and keep claiming misinformation. Actually was just going back and forth with someone who I know, who, pretty well, but they posted a meme mocking him, and it turned out they don't even know the case, the details of the trial. And they said his mom dropped him off into a riot, and she should be, charged for child endangerment, and he should have never been there. Well, maybe he should have never been there. It shouldn't, but it should never happen. People shouldn't have been there rioting and all that other kind of stuff there. Law enforcement should have been able to take care of the city. The media shouldn't inflamed everything, that reporting that Jacob Blake wasn't armed and all this other kind of stuff when he was, clearly armed, and which wouldn't have stopped people, because people were so into the rioting at this point anyway. But we, as a country, we should have never tolerated what happened in 2020. People should have never participated in the theft and the arson and all the stuff that happened. And it was amazing seeing that there's so many deviant, sinful people in the world. I know they're there, but to have so many people act without any sort of thought to the consequence, and so many people got away without any sort of consequence. So there's a lot of people who failed to get to that point of where Kyle ended up. But to go around and still spreading misinformation, even the Young Turks apologized for spreading misinformation. But we have people who are so emotionally invested in an outcome, but don't know the background of the case. I saw someone who did a TikTok talking about how they were a lawyer, and I think they were like a leftist lawyer, but they just couldn't believe all the things the prosecution was asking. So it was like a TikTok trend. There's a song, what the bleep or whatever. And so they kept just naming a new fact, like comparing it to Call of Duty, what the and so on. And so people in the comments were like, I didn't really know a lot, or I thought I knew a lot. And then as I watched the trial, I actually think this kid is innocent. And the person I was just arguing with, which when I get off of here, I'm going to finish my argument. I'm like, you're very invested, but it doesn't seem like you know the details of the case. So how can you be so invested and not at least know that he drove there, that he works in Kenosha? I said, he works there. And he's like, he's 17. Where does he work? I'm like, what, 17-year-olds don't have jobs? Like, what do you mean? The mom found it all went down when she got a phone call that 2 people were dead, that her son was responsible, and she said, go turn yourself in. That's the mom's involvement. She didn't drop him off with a lunch and said, have a nice riot, honey. Go shoot some protesters. That didn't happen. That did not happen. Someone said he's a kid in the comments. He was 17 when it happened. He was 17 when it happened. So anyway, to this LeBron James tweet, yeah, Ana Navarro had a really absurd one. I don't think I saved that one, but I was just like, some of these people Trump just broke and they cannot think. They're just so devoted to their narrative. But LeBron James tweeted out this: "What tears? I didn't see one. Man, knock it off. That boy ate some lemon heads before walking into court. Laughing face, laughing face, laughing face." So that's what LeBron James tweeted out. So people were obviously annoyed with this. I mean, some people obviously liked it because he was playing to a particular crowd. But people did start ragging on LeBron and started posting pictures like these under the comments, retweeting his stuff with stuff like this. Started pointing out that Mr. LeBron James, is a coward when it comes to China. Isn't standing up enough for NBA players who don't want to get vaccinated, and the kind of misinformation that he would spread, sticking up for criminals, like Jacob Blake, actually. So yeah, I think Laura Ingraham said it best when she said, "Shut up and dribble." Shut up and dribble. And he should certainly do that. But he's used to talking, and people seem to keep uplifting him. And I guess they'll always continue to have a platform. But if he was really the greatest, like Michael Jordan, he would know that sometimes you just don't talk about politics. He's very talented, worked very hard in his craft. Though my sister says he's a girl because he'd be flopping all over the court and barely touched and be like, and he couldn't have probably survived in the day back in a younger league where they was really rough and stuff. But maybe he would just be a tougher person and could get away with less stuff. But it's too bad my sister is working right now, because I sure would have her call and be like, LeBron James is a punk. it would be pretty funny. If you didn't see our TikTok special on Saturday when we reviewed TikTok videos, we had a great time. So you can go ahead and check out the video I did with my sister. But there was lots of remarks like with what LeBron said. And so that's why I'm like, to me, it was really a gamble to put Kyle on the court, to on the stand at all. And if they plan like, hey, have an emotional outburst, how do you guarantee that you will be able to come off well at all? He's not a talented actor. He's just a kid. He's 17. He's a lifeguard. He's not in the. I don't know if he took drama classes or something like that, but but to me that looked pretty legit. To me that looked pretty legit as someone who's had I don't cry a lot, and I can think of maybe only once or twice when I've just had like a pure burst of emotion. Because to me it seemed like that's the kind of cry that you have when you definitely don't want to. And you can't contain it, and it just bursts from you. It's like an explosion of emotions. So that's what it seemed like to me. And I'm the kind of person in those moments when such a thing has happened, I was like internally embarrassed to be crying like that. And people are like awkward, like we don't know what to do right now. And I don't like being in that position. So maybe it's a little bit of my bias coming off, but to me, it, in my opinion, from my perspective, it just doesn't seem like something that was fake. And I don't know why you'd fake it. It was so much at risk for him to go on the stand and to fake it like that, to fake it. And it doesn't matter because he still has his case is in self-defense. Totally self-defense. But let's get to this AG Nessel story. So, like I said, the Attorney General of Michigan, Dana Nessel, I saw someone post something early this morning. Maybe they posted it, I guess, sometime yesterday, but you know how Facebook, won't pop up maybe in your feed till sometime later. I don't know. Maybe they just don't think we want to see each other, the posts of our friends, and they can just be all super late. That's what they do. So I saw a post about it, and I was like, the attorney general all drunk in a stupor and stumbling around, like needing a wheelchair to get out of the game. I'm like, this sounds like disinformation. I'm like, this doesn't sound real. So then I scroll down to someone else talking about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this real? So then but they had retweeted her talking about it, and even the person who I watched, it was a consultant, Scott Greenlee, and even he said in his post he had to look around to make sure that it was real because it didn't sound real to him. So I read her post and it was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read the one that I screenshot in case there's any changes. But it was pretty bizarre today. So, my official statement on Tailgate Gate. My staff has pleaded with me to hire a crisis management PR firm for an incident that occurred on 10:30 at the U of M MSU football game. Instead, I thought I would just share the events which transpired that fateful day. So, first of all, your team is telling you to hire a crisis management team. That's not a good sign. That's really not a good sign. And I don't know why you wouldn't listen to your team if they're saying you need a crisis management team. I don't understand that. There's been a lot of politicians in hot water because they didn't act well, just because when they do something bad, but then also not having the good judgment to get like people to help them handle it. So I knew this was going to be interesting when I started reading at this point. I'm like, oh, that's wow. And to admit that, but like but I think that's how she's trying to, I don't know, come down a peg and just kind of plead to like a normal case to like normal people, like, hey, I'm like you, I can just talk to you, I don't need to listen to my team, I can't be handled, I just want to talk to the people one-on-one. So pretty remarkable. So she goes on. Before the big game, I attended the tailgate on an empty stomach. Much to my surprise, MSU tailgates tend to have more alcohol than food. So I thought it seemed like a good idea to eat 2 Bloody Marys, since as long as you put enough vegetables in them, it's practically a salad. As it turned out, this was not a brilliant idea. Also, I might be a terrible bartender. So using humor to smooth out the severity of the situation. I've never been to a tailgate before. It's not my thing. I don't. Well, sports isn't really my thing. But I definitely don't drink. But I would just assume that there would definitely be more alcohol than food at a tailgate party. So that would just be my opinion. But is that like a normal opinion? You guys can let me know. I proceeded to go to the game, which I'm told Michigan definitely won. And started to feel ill. I lay low for a while, but my friends recommended that I leave so as to prevent me from vomiting on any of my constituents. Polling consistently shows Roman showers to be unpopular among most demographics. I had a few folks help me up the stairs, and someone grabbed a wheelchair so as to prevent me from stumbling in the parking lot. Like all smart people attending festivities where drinking occurs, I had a designated driver. I went home, fell asleep on the couch, and my wife threw some blankets on me and provided me with some water and Tylenol for what she knew would be a skull crushing hangover the next day. But best wife ever. So I don't drink. I have seen some other people say this story sounds sketchy about having 2 Bloody Marys. And granted, she has an empty stomach, but she has 2 Bloody Marys, and she's so drunk that people are like, let's get a wheelchair. You guys can let me know if that's normal. Again, I've never had alcohol before, so you'll have to let me know. So that's the scandalous tale of the events which transpired at Tailgate Gate. Also, at some point, it seemed like a good idea to make the governor take a picture with Ron Weiser. Sorry, governor. Which we did see this picture with Whitmer, Nessel, and Weiser, which people take friendly sort of pictures all the time, but there were some grassroots people who did seem like annoyed by it. But in my opinion, I just, it's like people say such awful things about each other in politics. And to me, when people would be crossing lines and stuff, I just wouldn't be taking photos of people. In my opinion, that's like, I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't. So, let's go on. So just so one doesn't have to imagine what the scene might have looked like, I've attached this handy photo. Normally, I would ask my trusted friend and communications savant Kelly Rossman McKinney for advice on how to best handle this crisis, but she died last night, so I can't. That is the weirdest thing to me out this whole thing. Like, the story doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I'm going to read it. Normally, I would ask my trusted friend and communication savant, Kelly Rossman McKinney, for advice on how to best handle this crisis. But she died last night, so I can't. That is just too blunt. And I'm sorry for your loss. Like, why? At this point, I'm like, is she still drunk? Is she still drunk as she's writing this? Is she still drunk? Why would you just blurt that? I can't ask for her help because she's dead. My gosh. And I know she's like trying to be, I don't know, witty and have some kind of personality. And I've seen her in person. When I impersonated, I didn't impersonate being a Democrat. I just showed up and people assumed I was a Democrat. Because one, it was I don't want to say just because I'm black, but I did show up at their event. So why would you assume I'm not a Democrat? But so I've seen her talk in person, and she's got jokes and stuff. But this is why she should have listened to her staff about hiring the crisis management PR firm, because this is not like a good explanation, or it's not a good and maybe it is all legit, but this isn't how you would like apologize for public intoxication and you're the attorney general of a state. But the craziest thing, I couldn't get advice from my normal person because she died last night. This is it's all bad judgment, but this writing this is bad judgment. Not listening to the staff about how to handle it is bad judgment. And I'm going to show you something else as bad judgment, because she's just kind of known for doing these sort of blunders. And she said, I am human. Sometimes I screw up. This was definitely one of those times. My apologies to the entire state of Michigan for this mishap, but especially that Michigan fan sitting behind me. Some things you can't unsee. From now on, I pledge never to drink on an empty stomach, and definitely never to have another Bloody Mary, because it's going to take a while to get that taste out of my mouth. Sorry to all the people who have supported me for letting you down. I will try to do better. Okay, so trying to do better would have definitely not been the statement. Doing better would have definitely not been the statement. So I don't know what to say about this lady. I really don't. I really, really don't know what to say. But there is a crazy thing that she did during her primary that was just really off the wall, that I have to show you guys if you're not aware of what she did. So when she had her primary, she actually did a video talking about why she should be the nominee. And the reason that she should be the nominee is because she doesn't have a penis. And I'm not kidding you. That was a reason. You should vote for me because I don't have a penis and I'm not going to sexually assault you. And I will show you that video in a moment because I have the video. But this was a picture of her at the game and being super drunk, I guess, because after she had 2 Bloody Marys on an empty stomach, apparently before she got to the game. That's what the statement sounds like, because she said, before the big game, she attended the tailgate on an empty stomach, and she had the 2 Bloody Marys and didn't have any food, I guess. And she said more alcohol than food. So was there just no food at all? Or I don't know how much what the ratio needs to be between alcohol and food. I just like I said, I don't know much about it. But people are saying the story sounds fishy. I know the right I would have never allowed well, she's the boss, so I guess she can post whatever she wants to post. But this is like like I read to you, it's a weird statement. It's just a weird statement, and then the fact that they had to get her out in a wheelchair. And granted, they didn't want her vomiting over people and so on. I guess her constituents, and she's right. No one would like that, but I would think it would be worse for people to know that you were drinking and then have to wheel you out in a wheelchair. So it would have been better if like maybe they could just kind of help you out and get like a van, like you they had to pull Hillary Clinton into the van. So this is such an absurd a bizarre story. I guess I don't want to say absurd, but it's bizarre. So I know someone who is offering $500 if you have any video of her in the wheelchair stumbling about. She apologized, so I see that in a way that she wants to take accountability. I mean, this isn't a cover up, but I guess you can't cover it up. It's like real. People saw it. She was there. But again, the tone of this isn't how I think you should apologize if you're an elected official. And I do think her team was correct and she should have had a crisis management firm. But wow, this is an interesting story. But let me show you, because obviously this all screams bad judgment. Of course, you're not supposed to be intoxicated like that. She's attorney general. She did let people down, I would say. I mean, but a lot of these people, like the picnic I went to with all the Democrats, a lot of those people were just pure sycophants. So I'm sure people who want to support are still going to support her, and she's not lose votes for it, sure. But she should have never been elected. This lady was always crazy. And if you didn't see this video, this is pretty remarkable.
If the last few weeks has taught us anything, it's that we need more women in positions of power, not less. So, when you're choosing Michigan's next Attorney General, ask yourself this: who can you trust most not to show you their penis in a professional setting? Is it the candidate who doesn't have a penis? I'd say so. Some people will tell you,
Yeah. Is it the candidate who doesn't have a penis? Vote for me. I don't have a penis is a heck of a campaign. And you know what? She got by. It was. I don't think people expected her to win. They did. She went on to say people think that we shouldn't all run together because we shouldn't have an all female ticket. People seem to really like that actually. So, but what happened was in Michigan we had marijuana on the ballot. It drove out a lot of people to go vote. It was in the midterms. Trump was getting unpopular, especially like in the suburbs. And then there was other people who were kind of losing their popularity in different congressional districts and so on. So it was just kind of like a perfect storm, and she got swept up because and so did Benson, because I know they had a lot of money that they could have used for Benson, but her name ID was kind of low at the time when I was at least looking at the numbers and stuff. So I'm like, if Republicans had really pushed how I think they could have pushed, maybe they could have won. Now, Bill Schuette was the nominee, and Bill Schuette's a nice guy, but he did like drag the ticket. That's just like the facts of what happened. And he had higher unfavorables than she did, and Gretchen Whitmer ended up winning. Her number, she only had, to just let you know kind of the numbers, I don't remember them exactly, but she didn't get that many. It was just maybe a couple thousand votes less than like what Hillary Clinton got during the 2016 race. So the turnout for a midterm election was really high. Granted, Hillary Clinton had it was a lower turnout for, especially for like Democrats for her. She definitely didn't get anything close to like Obama did, but it was a really high turnout. And so we had ballot initiatives that got passed that time. There was a voters not politicians panel, which is a garbage thing that people are now saying it's pretty much a hot mess. And they shouldn't have done it. They also had like same day voter registration that happened as well. So So there was those ballot initiatives like all went through, and I don't know if we're going to be able to reconcile that anytime soon, but hopefully we can reconcile with Dana and Nessel and the three women who the press acted was like it was such a crime when Weiser called them the three witches in like a Republican event. And so that's another thing I don't get, like posing together. Like I really don't think that Whitmer cared, and they'll sell merchandise when people talk about them. But uh but it's just a little crazy how the stuff goes down. But I hope we can replace her. I really hope we can replace her. I'm I know I got stuff going on. I obviously wasn't very subtle when that just happened, but I tried. So let's go on. So I was going to play a video of James O'Keefe talking about what happened with the FBI raid, but then I thought I think there's a good chance Facebook would take it down. I thought there was a good chance that Facebook might take it down, and so I don't even think I put James O'Keefe's name in the title of this video because I'm streaming from Facebook and YouTube. Maybe I think I obviously put on YouTube. No, actually not obviously, but I think maybe there's a chance with Facebook they would take it down. So people are just not friendly to Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, who I have met in person at I think it was CPAC a couple years ago. Nice guy, very fit. But I think the work that they do is fantastic, and they do a lot of work that journalists won't do. And they just go to places, get undercover, and it's amazing how much people will say once you just take them out to a setting and get like a drink in their hand, and then they just start spilling the tea. And I think that happens in companies, that happens in political settings. Like I've definitely heard of people spilling too much tea on the Republican side to people, especially after they get a drink in their hand, which is why I heard a lot of people don't trust people who don't drink, because you're always kind of listening to them, and then they can like slip and lose their inhibitions and start, saying things that maybe they don't want you to know. But so be careful, because I don't drink. So anyway, they're very masterful in what they're able to uncover. So they've uncovered different stuff about, stuff with elections and different radical things on people's campaigns. They got into Pfizer, and they're into other companies with the vaccine, breaking things about the pandemic that I think are really important to know. But apparently during the 2020 election, when Joe Biden was still a candidate, someone contacted Project Veritas, and they said that they had a diary, and the diary allegedly belonged to Ashley Biden. And so he was negotiating with different people about the prices for it. And so he says that Ashley Biden left it somewhere and they acquired it. So they got in contact with Project Veritas, and I think this all went through like a lawyer. And so they were trying to verify if it was real or not. So, because they don't just post things, they try to verify the things that go down. Unlike a lot of journalists with the Russiagate stuff that just pushed that for years, and it all turned out to be wash, bunk, nonsense. So they couldn't, at the end of the day, they couldn't verify it for whatever reason. They could not. I don't know if they knew that it was actually, they had to question, is it legal, the possession of it? Like, did it actually come from a legal place? And is it actually Ashley Biden's diary? And if it is actually her diary, how do you know the actual stuff that's in it is true? So they decided that they couldn't make that determination. So they tried to give it back, and they couldn't give it back for whatever reason. So they just turned it over to the FBI. They did not publish contents of the diary. So I hadn't heard about a diary. I hadn't heard about it myself personally. I feel like I'm pretty much in the know, but apparently, like the different sources and stuff that I watch and will get, in the same kind of circles, conservative circles. I don't go like any kind of deep, dark place. Other people, I guess, were aware of it, but they didn't feel that it was worth reporting on either. Kind of like when the Steele dossier was first going around, people knew that of it, but they couldn't verify the things in it. And they knew a lot of things didn't make any sense about it. But once people started, Comey and them started like briefing Trump of stuff about it, they found the doorway of, oh, well, Trump was briefed on this thing. And then they started reporting disinformation stuff, didn't turn out to be true, that we're finding out more and more about every day as like the Durham indictments and stuff go down, which is good. But if you're holding your breath that it's going to go back all the way up to Hillary Clinton, well, it's already gone up all the way to, that she's going to end up getting arrested or something, I wouldn't hold my breath about that if you're still crossing your fingers for it. But people at least need to know the hoax that was pulled on the American people. It's really not justice that Trump's not president right now, and we all have to suffer for it, I guess. So they turned over the diary to the FBI, and recently the FBI raided the home of James O'Keefe and then another person, I believe from Project Veritas, and they took phones and other materials, and which on those devices are contact lists of people who, work for Veritas, people who are undercover at different places, donor lists. So they have the FBI is now in possession of a lot of information, claiming that this is for the investigation of the missing diary. That's why they said that they are doing it, because of the diary they're saying it was stolen. Now, Project Veritas was not told that it was stolen. They were told that Ashley left the diary, and then they were ever able to obtain it after they left it. Now, that I'm sure to you that sounds fishy, but that's exactly what happened with the Hunter Biden story when he left his laptop in the shop. So people thought that was an absurd story. But as I keep saying, things about Hunter start to make sense when you realize he's a crackhead. Now, I don't know much about Ashley Biden myself, and I hadn't heard about this diary until I heard about the FBI raid. And so now people are at the point, if the FBI, and what is their purview? What is their reason for raiding people's houses and taking the equipment of journalists with sensitive information that they definitely should not be privy to? What is the justification for them doing this to a journalist, especially over a diary? And the reason would be, I guess, because it's the president's daughter, but that's not how things are just supposed to work. That because you have sensitive information on the president, that they can just send the FBI after you. Like, is this a matter of national security or something? Because it just sounds like a diary was left somewhere. Can you even prove that it was taken? Like, and so they said the FBI said it's not, when they issued the subpoena, they said it's not, the O'Keefe doesn't have to not be quiet, but they want him to be quiet. So he decided to still make a video about it. And he actually went on Sean Hannity and talked about it. And again, I would just play his words. You can go look it up yourself. But I'm like, I don't know if I will get dinged or not. I just want to be a little cautious so I can at least talk about it. And you never know. My show got censored the other day. But that was like NBC, and because they didn't like me talking about I don't know, their dumb clown abortion skit. Obviously, they made it to be talked about. So what was actually in the diary? So now Tucker Carlson mentioned about the FBI going after James O'Keefe. He's like, by the way, we know about the diary, the contents of it, and we've like decided not to talk about it. He's like, there's horrific things in it. And other people have known about it, I guess, and decided not to cover it. And I don't want to talk about, I guess, the things specifically that are probably, I guess, I'm not going to read it to you or show you. I don't know if it's true or not, but I can say that there's some really disturbing things in there about Ashley and trauma and things that sound really inappropriate with involving her dad. And if it's true, it would be really messed up, I can say. And there were other sort of incestuous or perverted things besides like Hunter's sex tapes and stuff that was like allegedly on the laptop too. But people probably are like, this is too weird to be real. And I heard someone talk about it on TikTok, and I was like, I just kind of ignored it. I'm like, that can't be real. People always call me to be like to kind of sort of fact check, like, did you see this? Is this true? And I'll be like, yeah, that's true. Or if they don't know, I'm trying to make a point to look it up. I don't know if people don't know if this diary is real. And like I said, Project Veritas could not verify if it was real. But they didn't just run the story and say, this is the rumor. Someone gave us this diary. They didn't say we can't authenticate it, but they couldn't prove that it was true, that they didn't know it was 100% legal. James O'Keefe said that Project Veritas is very, very careful about what they put out, because they do not want to be in a situation where they get into some kind of legal trouble. So they said with everything that they're doing, they said pretend like there's a jury of 12 on your shoulder the whole entire time. So they could not prove that it was real. They could not prove that it came from Ashley, and they couldn't prove that it wasn't tampered with. So because they couldn't 100% know where it came from, they decided to give it over to law enforcement. And so now they're saying that diary was stolen. And Project Veritas, according to them, or at least what they were told by the source, the whistleblower who tipped them off to it, that it wasn't stolen, that it was left behind. Again, I think you'd probably say this all sounds sketchy. The Hunter Biden laptop story sounds super sketchy too. This is a weird family. This is a really strange family. It really is. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds a little too on the nose with all the creepy pictures that you see of Biden and stuff, and obviously someone could have made all that up. I don't think a reporter would if it was about Trump, someone I guess probably ask about it. But I would like to, I don't know. Obviously it's not a question I think the journalists who adore them would want to ask, but it's a level of sort of decency that the people you can expect from people, maybe, that they won't ask either. But people at least need to really ask about the FBI doing this. And does that mean, and I guess at least ask, and not, you don't necessarily have to talk about what's in it, but you can at least ask, hey, the FBI raided the journalist's home and they confiscated a lot of sensitive material. Does this authenticate the diary? And very well, maybe not. And maybe it's just a smokescreen so the government could have O'Keefe's contacts. So they get into his phone, see his donor base, see where all of these people are at, because he has people in these businesses like Pfizer and so on. So it is very likely that they knew that they had possession of maybe the diary, and they were trying to maybe pin that on them and just use it as an excuse to actually go get his contacts. So because I think that would be more kind of the bread and butter for what the FBI would probably want, especially knowing how much money these companies like Pfizer are making and sponsoring all these networks, and the hand and the arm that they have pretty much with the Biden administration. I mean, as soon as Trump kept saying it's coming, the vaccine is coming, and they're like, well, we don't believe you. And they did not want the world to have any sort of optimism. But as soon as it was like clear with like the Trump contesting the election and looking into stuff and fraud and so on, once it was clear that I think it was when the Supreme Court shot down like the multi-case, like Texas and other people when they sued, that Pfizer's like, hey, by the way, we have a vaccine coming out and it's like 94% effective right now. And it was like, oh, if it's 94 right now, why did you make some kind of like big announcement before? Because you could have gave some people some hope or something, and at least let people know that Trump's not crazy. Like even that last time he was on the debate stage, the second debate, he's like, it's coming. And they're like, well, that's what you said before, Mr. President. They really, really, really wanted to remove all sense of optimism at all. And of course people were undermining the vaccine. People were undermining the vaccine when Trump was president, because they didn't want people to be prepared to take it. If it was done, they didn't want to have an excuse for people to go to the polls and feel like we were coming around the bend, that America was about to get back on the right track. They're still invested in the constant doom and gloom of the pandemic because it gives them power. And if more people don't push back against it right now, they're going to keep pushing and keep acquiring more power. So it is up to us to say no and decide that it's over now. I decided a while ago my pandemic was over. Like, I wasn't really feeling it from the get go, but I have been decided it was over. Been decided. As a matter of fact, when tickets got really low because no one was flying, we booked tickets to just go to Vegas for the day and come back just because we could, because it was like $30. It was crazy. I was gonna have a $30 and everything was like closed down in Vegas. We're like, we don't know what we gonna do there, but we just going. But then they canceled the flight. It was with Spirit. We should have known better, I guess. But they didn't cancel it online. We didn't know it was canceled until we got to the airport. And so they gave us the money back. But I was like, I'm not afraid. We got to still live your life. And again, it's not because COVID didn't have some kind of touch in my life or something, because my dad had it really bad, and it was a terrible experience with him being in the hospital for such a long time, and then he had to have a road to recovery. But you know what? Life goes on. He's currently in Mexico right now, back on the mission field, and this is the second time he got when did he go? He went in the hospital the day after the election. He was actually too sick to vote. He couldn't get up and vote. We're like, you're really not going to vote for Trump? But he couldn't get up. And we did not use the mail-in ballots or we didn't fill out that absentee thing because we just always, it's right around the corner, who could have predicted. So he didn't actually get a chance to vote. So the next day we went to the doctor, and my brother had bronchitis. We thought he had bronchitis or whatever, but they took him to the hospital, and they're like, we put him in the COVID wing. We're like, did you test to make sure that he had COVID? Like, we're sure he has COVID. I'm like, but did you test him before you put him with all the COVID patients? So they didn't. And anyway, maybe he had it before, maybe he didn't, but that was the last time we saw him for a long time. And he missed Thanksgiving. So yeah, so that was was election on the 3rd or the 4th. Well, it was really early, obviously. And so then he missed Thanksgiving, and I can't remember if he was here for Christmas, because he actually had to go back to the hospital because he had a blood clot. And but when he did come home, like, he had muscle atrophy, like it was like he was just flesh jelly, like his arms and legs. And they wanted to send him to a nursing home. They wanted to send him to a nursing home so badly, and we would not let them do that. And at one point, they're like, well, it can look like you're refusing care. Kind of like your insurance could be at stake almost. And we're like, please give us our dad. They're like, well, you don't realize the kind of burden it will be. And it's like, he has 7 children. We will work it out. And from the time he went in, me and my older sister, we moved in with my mom just to be with her. And we stayed with him through his illness. My sister Katrina stayed with him until he could walk up the stairs and get back in his own bed, because they put a bed in the living room. Actually, I'm at their house right now. So it was a big ordeal. So when I talk about COVID, it's not because I'm unaware and I'm like the only person in the world who has not been impacted by this. I have been impacted, and thank God that the only person who I know who died with COVID was my grandmother, who passed, but she was 102 and far beyond ready to go. But that time with my dad was hard, very hard. And I had an aunt who had it early on, and I just think she's alive by the grace of God, because doctors were like, kind of preparing us for the end. So I'm aware of the severity of the situation, but I also do know that life still has to go on. I'm well aware that a lot of people have obviously had the opportunity to have the vaccine. People now know how to treat it better. We have better treatments. Tim Pool got sick with COVID not too long ago, and Joe Rogan actually paid for the kitchen sink treatment with the monoclonal treatments, and also the ivermectin, the horse dewormer that CNN like to call it. He paid for him and his staff to all get the hookup with the medical hookup, and the media acted like that was some kind of big scandal or something. But but people have access to better care. We understand it more than we did at the beginning of the pandemic, and now we're at the point where Pfizer is making commercials geared toward kids, like get the vaccine, be a superhero. And Big Bird got vaccinated. So they're really making their marketed attempt toward kids. And 5 through 11, barely any sort of COVID deaths at all, but they're still really pushing it. I think I still have the graph here. So just so you know, your child in that age range from 5 to 11 is what we're all talking about now. They're more likely to die of suffocation. They're gonna be more likely to die on the way to school from a car accident. Drownings rates higher, car accidents, homicide, cancer, cardiovascular disease, flu, pneumonia. The flu is way more dangerous to kids than it is to COVID, and the flu pneumonia would probably the issue with COVID is how it spreads. But it doesn't really appear to be taking out the kids in that sort of manner. So if you want to get a vaccine, that's cool for you. And if you want to vaccinate your child, that's your prerogative as well. But don't feel that they're in so much danger that it's a life or death situation. Someone has convinced you, the media has convinced you to feel that way, but that is not the case. And I heard someone on TikTok, which they actually got rid of their channel because they just figured I guess they were done with it. But he said he probably would only cover COVID in a positive light if the app he was on wasn't such a kid focused app. But since it is a kid focused app, because he felt that the vaccine was necessary for older people, but for younger people, there's a ton of young kids on TikTok and there's so many dumb takes on there, and I'm like, I can usually tell when it's a kid commenting. I really can. I go to their profile to confirm. I'm like, yep, this kid is 13. They're 15. And the people in their early 20s are dumb too. And which is crazy to me because I definitely was a smarter kid than they are. But I don't know what they're doing to the kids. I guess it's the TV or something. I don't know. But they're trying to gear it toward people where it is probably in a lot of cases a bigger risk to take it than to not take it. It's likely that you'll be fine either way, but people just need to know what the risks are. So that's why I talk about it. It's not because I'm a big, huge conspiracy person, but I don't know, a lot of these conspiracies are coming true. But some of you guys aren't invested in actual conspiracies, but the COVID stuff is how the push of it makes me really uncomfortable. And the lack of just real honesty. And I've shared on the show people who have lost their kids from adverse reactions, and I just want you to be informed. I don't I posted a video of a father sobbing saying my government lied to me and it wasn't worth the risk because he lost I think he was 16-year-old son. And I just want people to know. I just want people to be aware of their options because one side is definitely lying to you and they're a lot bigger than my channel, but I try. Well, that is a show for today. Thank you guys for sticking around. And please, speak up if you're on a job right now. And they try to force the mandates, let them know that right now the courts don't find them to be constitutional. And send out the power of a letter and multiple letters from multiple people can be very powerful. Because they can come up in lawsuits. So make sure that you send out letters and let them know where you stand on some of the issues. especially where the courts feel right now with some of these issues as well. Don't just take it lying down. Try to really fight back on some of these things, because no one is accepting liability if something happens to you. And that's just the reality of the situation. No one else is accepting liability. So you have to do what's best and be responsible for yourself. Because because like I said, that father said that the government lied to them, and well, you can't sue vaccine companies. You can't sue for vaccines. You can sue, and maybe you can get something in court if you can prove that it was the vaccine. You can get money for vaccine harm. It's very hard to do. Very hard to do. They'll pay out illegal immigrants who are separated at the border more money than they'll probably pay you out for having a bad reaction. And that's just the truth. That's just where we are right now. So make sure that you are making decisions that you can live with. So just push back. Push back. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content that I have on the website. Please make sure that you guys check out different merchandise that I have as well. Like I said, like the pumpkin spice season mugs. I got the my body, my business. I mean, my money, my business. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I got stuff with black tea on it. I love these. You are not that special mugs. So make sure that you guys check out the different merchandise that we have on the website. And please consider supporting. Please make sure that you guys are following me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. All my handles are at Black Tea News. The only one that is different is at True Black Tea, and that's my Twitter. So make sure that you're liking, that you're sharing, that you're subscribing, and that you guys are sharing articles. And if you do enjoy what I do here at Black Tea News, make sure that you guys are, consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. I you guys seem to like that Richard Whitmer people with a period article. So thank you guys for sharing that along. I have to look more into the Dana Nessel story, see if there's any other involvements with or reactions from people. Maybe I'll write something about that. But that story is just wild to me. And it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. And I look forward to actually getting off of here and making a TikTok about it and seeing what else the world thinks about. So God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.